Hey everyone, my name is Austin. I'm a senior product designer at GitLab. Looking into the agenda for this short week, the first thing I want to touch on was I spent a good bit of time in merge requests and responding to mentions, which, keeping up with the async communication could be a good bit of work. But what got me most excited was just seeing the progress we've been making on status checks. It's looking great. Super stoked that we're getting closer to the finish line of getting that feature in its first release out. The next thing I want to highlight is I'll be presenting next week at the UX Showcase. In case you're interested, it'll be on Wednesday. I've got my slides here. I'll be talking about how we don't want to sleep on documentation. So I think one thing we've all been seeing is just continual questions around some of the features we've released. Our documentation is so key for helping users understand how to configure their environments, how to set up their things for the first time, and great documentation is tied directly to that user experience. So let's make sure we got great examples in there, especially for ones that tie to our persona Cameron. All right, and so next I spent just today focused on trying to establish a mechanism for how we might bring audit events into a webhook functionality. I'll highlight a few things here since it's not a super long agenda. I was considering how we might use the existing webhook interface to do this. It's possible that we could bring it in here. My biggest concern with just tucking audit events nice and neatly in there is we have a lot of events. Particularly this list would be the new events that don't exist yet, but even the ones that we do have. So, I'm looking for ways that we might be able to compress that view but still keep it easily discoverable. I would definitely want to work with Libor on ecosystem since he is tied directly to webhooks, integrations, and see how that might all work out. And then, I'm looking for different ways that we might bring those webhooks into the view with audit events. Haven't explicitly settled on any one of these in particular yet, dividing it up between tabs. One area that I kind of liked was perhaps instead of allowing multiple webhooks, just a singular webhook that we can show its status, maybe the last result of the latest trigger, and make it super simple to set up, which might mean we could separate the audit event webhook from other webhooks since it would be kind of a unique one in that sense. So yeah, we'll talk through some more ideas. We'll be using this with a customer call next week just to help run the idea by them. One thing I noticed was if I continue to test an endpoint too many times, it'll time out. So don't know if that would impact us in the way that we might try to implement it. We'll see. I also got to spend some time with Kai. Yesterday we talked through protected branches and MR approval rules. The way that we were coming together on a decision of what we could test next was around making protected branches more of a blunt hammer. So I'll visualize this probably sometime next week, but more or less only being able to configure a default set for protected branches at the group level, not for a specific protected branch, but for just any protected branch. You can maybe set a bare minimum, like you require it to be at least maintainers or something. Not being able to go below whatever is set at the group level. And then as an MR approval rule for maybe the start is it is a rule that only applies to any protected branch, which is probably way too much overkill, but maybe it's a way that we can see if that helps get customers or users 80% of the way, or if it's completely useless and then we need to go back to the drawing board again. And lastly, I'm going to be shopping around some issues that I had worked on in design that don't directly tie to us. So a great example of this is the project deletion experience. We did help with this in the past. It's not directly compliance related. So I'm going to be looking around at some other teams and seeing if they might be willing to take this on. Honestly, this might be a great candidate for a hackathon. I think a team could definitely pick this up and build it, and it's something that would exist in our SaaS. So it would be directly applicable there. Well, that's it for this week. It went pretty fast. Hope you all have a great weekend.